Hi guys, welcome.
Hi.
Hey Matty.
Hi. Hi. Hey. You can hear me. I'll start my camera now.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome. And great to have you guys on here. And kind of wanted to dive into a few different topics. But first, let's go ahead and kind of like give the audience a little bit of introduction about yourself. Let's go ahead and start with Krista.
Oh, okay. So I've been a digital artist since 2013, and I started the Techism art movement in 2014. I wrote a manifesto about the need for art to be at the leading edge of technology in order for the technology to evolve into a more humane instrument for the wellness and well-being for people. And I've been working in the NFT space now since February. I'm still very new, but you know how it is, like 1 week in NFTs, like equivalent to like 1 year. It's like
Yeah.
so crazy how things are so fast here. I minted the Mars house in March, and that was basically the first metaverse house that was sold in the world, and kind of opened people's eyes about the possibilities of actually, engaging in a lifestyle in the metaverse. And that's that.
Awesome. And also a little bit about you as well, Matty.
Sure. I'm Matty Mo. I'm known around the internet as the most famous artist. If you Google those four words, you find me next to Picasso and Warhol and some other art legends. I built my brand over the course of the last 8 or so years, producing headline-worthy projects and selfie-friendly murals and installations. I used to be an ad tech founder and investor. I had some wins, most notably Sharethrough and Wildfire, and a few major losses, which you can Google. Now I spend my time on three things: a community of artists called TMFA Community. We're a social token and NFT powered gang of around 500 interdisciplinary artists around the world. Our goal is to upskill, support, and collaborate with each other. We view art as a positive sum game where we can all win, and we're trying to all win together. I run an NFT studio where we produce our own intellectual property and blockbuster NFT projects under different pseudonyms. And I'm working on building an art town, an IRL art town in eastern New Mexico that I'm dubbing as Marfa 2.0, which will include Web3 technologies to help with governance and financing of various projects here.
Excellent. Welcome to have on stage. And I kind of wanted to dive a little bit into the topic with the panel, and kind of like, what do you guys kind of see that's in the NFT space that you don't see anywhere else? Let's go ahead and start with you, Krista.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's the fact that artists can actually take control of their careers and disintermediate, the art market. So, for example, you have platforms like SuperRare where artists can have like eyes of the collectors who see the work, and they could sell directly to the collectors, and then get paid to the blockchain directly. So there's no oops, I forgot to pay you, or I'll pay you in 30 days. It's immediate transactions, right? And the artist can actually avoid getting screwed by middlemen. And it's happened to me a few times. I don't know about you, Matty, but I've been through some rough waters with certain art dealers, and it's very refreshing to be able to control that. And then, of course, there's the royalty system, where you basically have residual royalties of 10% with every resale of the artwork, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I can relate to Gallers using my art studio as a bank. You know, they take work on consignment, sell it, and then hold the money for 3 to 6 months, and and they kind of clog up the wheel of your studio by not providing you resources. And in the NFT space, that's no longer the case. Something else that's really cool about NFTs that I even have an anecdote I'll share that happened this week is artists who are either digital native or conceptual or ephemeral artists now have a vehicle through which they can monetize their practice. So, for example, in the past, if you were a performance artist, it was near impossible to monetize your performance. Or if you were a video artist, collectors couldn't really wrap their heads around ownership of a file. And now with NFTs, that's all possible. The anecdote I want to share is there's this artist called Jeffrey Allen Scudder who's kind of coined this term radical digital painting, and he studied at Yale, got an MFA in sculpture, I believe, has been teaching as a professor, and has never really made a tremendous amount of money from his art, but he was able to sell something like 260 of his radical digital paintings that he produced over the last 6 or so years on OpenSea in the last few days, and capture the value that has probably been the value that he deserves, really. Like he's a brilliant thinker, he's a brilliant artist, but hasn't had a mechanism through which he can monetize his work. And now his work's been featured on OpenSea's homepage. His collection sold out. I'm actually a proud collector of his work. And it's cool to see artists who didn't have, let's say, the galleries, art institutions supporting their work, or a way for them to support their work, finally being able to get recognition and resources from their work.
Yeah, like the artist kind of a perspective is like, now how Krista was saying, now you're getting paid instantly, so that there's no kind of like middleman transaction to it. You literally say, hey, look, here's what it is. Here's a transaction. You make sure that I get paid. We'll be okay. You receive the art. Kind of want to dive a little bit back to you, Krista. So I noticed about Continuum that you kind of released out. Would you be able to talk a little bit more about that as well?
Yes, Continuum is a project that I started in 2017. And, I basically, the foundation of my work is meditation. I'm a meditator. I practice TM twice a day. And, what brought me to my current place as an artist is through transcendental meditation, through, treating my own, depression and anxiety, which was really bad in 2013. So that's when I started meditating, and my art became therapeutic. And I lived in Japan. So for me, I see art as a mirror of the mind. Like when I was at Ryoenji Temple Garden, I would go there 3 or 4 times a year, and I would just sit there, because just being in front of this garden and the way that the Zen monks designed the garden, it's sort of like imbued this Zen state of consciousness in my brain. So I felt this calming effect, and I thought, okay, this is my artistic awakening. I know what I want to do, and I want to create a 21st century Zen garden that is digital for the digital age and beyond. I think that right now, because of digital technology and the disruption that the technology is causing, especially social media, it's now proven that Facebook is actually really bad for kids' mental health. We have the largest population of lonely and depressed people, even though we're connected more than ever through the technology. But it's not a platform that actually facilitates humanity, that facilitates well-being. You're actually engaging in very egocentric, very sociopathic behaviors every day, many moments of the day. And that becomes group culture when you compound that by billions of people around the world, right? So Continuum really is this, it's a space where I create a meditative giant Zen garden through a 100-foot LED wall, and I create my art installation. And I collaborate with Jeff Schroeder of the Smashing Pumpkins. He's a guitarist, and he created this meditative, beautiful sound frequency music to instill this Zen consciousness. And we had our first event in Toronto, and it was actually an artwork, like the actual video as a one of one it was auctioned in Sotheby's. For a show that Steve Aoki curated on the 30th of September. And that was amazing, because the following day, on the 1st, we launched the event for the public, free to the public. And people came out, and the number one response that we had was, we needed this, because everyone has experienced collective suffering. And I thought, why not create a wonderful place, a safe space where people can go, and everyone is vulnerable, everyone's been through the same situation. We have compassion, and it's a place where people can come, and it's digital at the same time, so it brings people together. So that's the whole concept for Continuum. And we're actually continuing a tour, and it's now going to be in Orania, China on the 15th to 17th. It's a collaboration with the Doom movie premiere. And we're also going to be showcasing in Miami, Basel, and then beyond. So we're creating a worldwide, movement of well-being and technology, and also NFTs will be deeply involved in this project. So I'm looking forward to the project. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and I was able to kind of see, well, not physically be there, but kind of see some of the people that were kind of going, and
Yeah.
literally self-care is how some of the viewers are saying, is self-care is everything. Making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, and at the same time, we had just a whole year of getting rocked by COVID, so just making sure that if anything, going into directly into the space, and also for Matty as well. So kind of reaching back to that COVID thing is I noticed that remember TMFA kind of created the monoliths around the world as kind of a moment in history where people were where is this coming from? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, people can Google or go to the mostfamous.com/headlines and see all the press regarding that particular stunt. Yeah, the monoliths happened at the end of 2020, and it was a little bit of a reprieve from the seriousness of the news cycle. I can't take credit for every monolith, but I can say that we were involved in some part of that process. Yeah, I mean, my practice has always been a little bit poking fun at what Krista just mentioned, which is the vapidity and kind of banality of social media. And even my name, The Most Famous Artist, is a piss take on this whole notion that we want to be famous as artists, and that's the primary objective. And it's a little ironic that all I had to do was call myself the most famous artist to achieve that status. I mean, I think that kind of steps away from the core focus here, which is how do NFTs impact the art world? And if I could redirect the conversation, I mean, as an artist paying attention to the NFT space, it feels a little overwhelming. I mean, if I'm not on Rarity Tools all day long and looking at the homepage of OpenSea and learning how to participate in the gas wars, you kind of feel like you're getting left behind. And I guess some things that it's done to my art practice are, it's kind of, I'd say it's commercialized a lot of artists that were vehemently against being commercialized because there's so much money floating around. And artists are starting to, at least in my view, make work that fits either the narrative, the cultural aesthetic, or the framework that the NFT buyer community is supporting. So, for example, we see a lot of artists making these 10,000 PFP projects, or we see artists going after kind of generative art. And I guess what I'm excited to see is all of the hype shake out, and then just getting back to a place where artists are creating for the sake of just making what they want to, and then seeing what the market decides is important. Because right now it feels like we're in these hype cycles, and chasing the hype cycle as an artist feels like the appropriate thing to do, because it's been hard. 2020 was really hard for a lot of artists. We didn't have the opportunity to show our work. We didn't have the opportunity to sell much work. Art is a non-essential item. I mean, blue chip art sales were up to record numbers because many wealthy collectors view art as a hedge. But for the rest of us, the folks who are just trying to make art and sell art, it was a really hard time, and NFTs have come in and kind of rewarded a lot of us for just sticking through it. But it's also created a little bit of a cloud. It's created a little fog around where should I be orienting my practice, and where should we as artists be going? Should we be chasing the hype cycles, or should we be staying true to what our practice is? I loved hearing Krista's story about her transcendental meditation impacting her practice and how that naturally fits into NFTs. It doesn't sound like she's chasing the hype cycle, which is admirable. But that's something that I've talked to a lot of my art friends about, and it's kind of this lingering stench, if you will.
Yeah, like so like with the kind of like with artists, entering into the crypto space and kind of like now kind of producing more works on there, like how do you think you think that like how do you think that is affecting the space, as in like has the crypto art scene like amplified your artistic fame to kind of like make it to like reach a newer audience?
Yeah, for me it has. I mean, my life has changed ever since the Mars House came out, and after it was sold. I mean, it basically was, it's a harbinger for a metaverse future. And I think people were just like shocked that a digital house fetched so much money. It sold for like 288 ether. I mean, I wasn't surprised about the price, obviously, but everybody else is like, the headlines were all like, no, no, this can't be real. This is a joke. It's crazy. And I had so many architects like so pissed off, like, oh, who is this person, selling a rendering as an artwork for like 500,000. Yeah, but at the same time, we're like so early in the space. And when you really think about it, like we're actually the pioneers of future culture that's happening right now with NFTs. So NFTs, I think, are really exciting because it is the future of culture. And so we're really at the cutting edge.
Yeah, I would love to hear what changed in your life, Krista, as a result of selling a virtual house for $500,000, and how that changes your practice. If you want to talk about that, I'd be happy to listen to it. Otherwise, I can answer that question.
Well, that's a great question. I think that it's just all the media attention, and people just know who I am from the Mars House. And yes, I've been creating art all this time, and I've done a collaboration with L'Envin, but it just sort of like everyone just sort of knows, my name, and they know the Mars House now. So, I've been put on all these lists, Nifty Top 40, Metaverse Top 30. And I'm invited to all kinds of panel discussions and media interviews. So let me tell you, like after the Mars House was sold, like I was nonstop talking about the Mars House and about the metaverse, and I still haven't stopped. And there are all kinds of people who want to collaborate with me, and different platforms that want my endorsement, or for me to have an advisory role, which is all very flattering. But at this point, it's really starting to get to the point where I really have to carve out time and protect my time as an artist to really create and stay on course with my vision. And so I'm very happy that I have Continuum, and it's a project that's been ongoing since 2017. But at the same time, like Mars House has become this whole thing on its own, and I'm, there, it's a whole new thing. It's has a world and a universe of its own that I'm also still riding that wave, and so it's pretty exciting. I'm not complaining. It's just changed my life.
Excellent. And then also Matty as well, kind of like how has it kind of like amplified artistic fame, and kind of like how like are you reaching out to newer audiences as well?
What's fascinating is that I'm finding launching product or projects pseudonymously is actually allowing me more artistic freedom. And it's allowing me to step outside of kind of the expectations of my collectors and my audience. And so I'm finding more space to experiment because of NFTs. Not all these experiments are successful. Some have been, but I like it, and I like the NFT space in that regard, that it's acceptable to be anonymous, and it's acceptable to start projects fresh. And there's a buying public interested in supporting those types of projects. One thing that hasn't taken off to the degree I hope it will eventually is like this idea that artists can produce one of ones. We've seen a lot of like collections or like projects, whereas and I guess Mars House is an example of a one of one that sold quite well. But I'd like to see more of a parallel between the physical world, artist, studio practice, and the making of a work over a period of time, and then the selling of that work. And kind of sharing the process through which that work is created and building, like the notion of studio visits kind of went away in the NFT space, and studio visits were the primary driver of sales for me, like people coming into my space, experiencing my creative process, looking at a whole bunch of my work, and kind of really getting a vibe for what was happening. And I feel like NFTs have become like this transactional layer that abstracts out the practice and the process. And so I'm hopeful that we can figure out a way to, through Discord channels and through social media, involve interested collectors more in the process of the creation of art and less in the transactional value achieved as a result of the art being sold through the NFT technology.
That's a great point. Can I just expand on that? I think that's a really good point, Matty. And I also want to know if you actually think that the future of the market really depends on mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies. Like, I think this is all a matter of timing, that the current crypto art collectors are also early crypto investors. And the future of this market will be from mainstream art collectors who cross over into crypto and adapt it, and therefore will also, bring their taste and, the traditional value structure of going to studio visits, of appreciating the slow creative process of artwork. I think this is a cultural bridge that still needs to be bridged. What do you think of that, Matty?
That's a great point. There's a gentleman called Stefan Simkowitz who's like a kind of an art dealer collector extraordinaire, and he created a platform called Simco Drops, and through that he's bringing studio practice artists and sometimes digital artists into the NFT world in a way that feels a little bit more in line with the traditional art market. And so I think there are certain actors in the fine art world that are making this transition and doing it well and bringing high quality cultural production into the NFT space. I'm personally not collecting like really expensive JPEGs of cats or toads or punks, partially because it just feels really expensive and inaccessible. But what I am doing is I'm finding these like small communities who are launching NFT projects and buying the NFT as more of an access pass to the community, less so thinking that it's going to appreciate in value, but more thinking about it as like, okay, the NFT is my ticket to the concert, and the rarity of my NFT is like where I sit in the stadium, but at least I'm there and I'm getting to like hear everyone talk or hear the performer sing. So in its current instantiation, the value I see in NFTs is access to communities of people where you can learn invaluable information. Whether or not these really expensive like art blocks or CryptoPunks will last the test of time remains a mystery, and only time will tell. And I guess with the rate of change in the NFT space, it feels like a new, like world changing or world like art world shifting thing is happening on a daily basis, and that reminds me a little bit of like the hype of zombie formalism, which was this moment that happened in the art market where all of a sudden all these new artists, these new abstract artists were selling for exorbitant amounts of money. But then when the bear market came, all of a sudden their careers were over. And so it'll be interesting to see what the bear market, which inevitably happens in the cyclical crypto market, does to the NFT space, and which projects survive.
What about tokenization? Would you tokenize yourself? I've been asked that question. I've been thinking about it.
So I think what you're referring to is social tokens.
Yeah.
And that's this
Have
idea
your own,
that like,
yeah.
Yeah. So I have a social token. It's called art.
Okay.
It's built on the Rally platform, and it's a utility for my community to access my Discord. So rather than owning an NFT and using CollabLand to authenticate into my Discord via their MetaMask wallet, Rally is this really easy on-ramp where non-crypto native folks can just sign up with an email address, a sidechain wallet ID or wallet, and then and use a fiat transaction to buy my tokens, or they can come into my Discord and earn my tokens. But the general idea is the tokens. So if we go back to this concert analogy, the NFT is the access pass to the stadium. The tokens become the way to reward fans who know the most words to your songs or wear the merch and that kind of thing. And it almost becomes like in gaming, a point system where you can evaluate who are your super fans, who are the folks that are contributing the most to your growth as a community, who are the folks that are like stepping up. And so to a certain degree, I have tokenized myself and my community largely to keep track of who are the people that are contributing the most value to the network of artists I'm trying to build.
Are you going to offer airdrops or studio visits? Like, what other community building mechanisms are you creating for your tokenized community? It's very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind social tokens is providing utility to token holders, and so we provide a utility in a number of ways, like participating in IRL group shows. Last week we had, or October 1st, we had a group show where members of our community who hold our tokens got to display their work for free in a gallery space that we rented so that we could have a group show for our community.
Wow.
We also have hosted workshops where we brought in lecturers, or we've allowed members of the community to host figure drawing workshops or still life drawing workshops or any number of educational experiences to kind of build an ecosystem or an economy around our community. And the social token is the mechanism through which we do that. The social token is absolutely not an investment. It's absolutely not something people are buying with the hopes that it goes up. It's literally the point system through which we keep track of individual members' engagement in my ecosystem, read my career as an artist.
Brilliant.
That's exciting. Yeah, like I mean, I did see one person that did tokenize himself in terms of like all his decisions. I think his name was Alex Mesmesh. He had it to where it's like, oh, if I tokenize myself, what can I eat today? And there was like 2 answers. They would vote on which one he would eat.
Wow.
But
that's amazing. That's like performance art. It's amazing.
And then after a while, I think he became I forget which platform, but he's building now. But he's building like an art marketplace NFT platform.
He's building Showtime, which is like Showtime, the Instagram for NFTs.
Wow, very cool. Love
and
that.
Then, yeah, so we're also starting to wrap up on this discussion, and I kind of wanted to do a quick, kind of like a quick final. Sorry, I'm messing up. A quick final question for you guys, to kind of like give like final thoughts on like what the industry, what the NFT industry is at like currently right now, and then kind of like your outlook in the future of it as well. Let's go ahead and start with Krista.
So I see that we're still in very early days. I think that the next iteration of NFTs will be into the metaverse. There's billions of dollars being poured into actually creating the metaverse, building it out, and this is going to be the biggest sort of creative renaissance that we've ever experienced in modern times. We basically need art, objects, architecture. We need all kinds of assets to build our worlds, to create experiences, and we also need like education. We need healthcare. We need all kinds of services that will actually be translated into the metaverse, because we are going to live this quantum lifestyle where we're actually, have a digital twin where we live part of our lives in the metaverse. But for me, I think it's very important that this interaction is not a dystopian future. Like, I'm not into Ready Player One. I don't think that gamification of our lives is necessarily all that great. What I want is the enhancement of human life, I want education. I want art. I want like meaningful, immersive experiences that actually expands human consciousness, like global travel, global interaction, transcendent interaction with human beings on a level of person to person that actually overrides tradition, overrides religion and all these dogmatic, you know, pre-existing values that exist in the real world. Let's transcend that. So for me, I think that we're actually a new future of human civilization that is going to be utopic, that's going to be the ideal. And I think that life imitates art. So if we're creating a beautiful ideal in the metaverse of how we can actually live with peace and brotherhood and sisterhood and be co-creators on a trustless-based system where people are not screwing each other all the time, we're basically co-creating, collaborating, and I think this can actually become in real life practice if we just create it there first.
I could not have said it better. NFTs that are interoperable with metaverses. That is the future. Krista, it was super awesome getting to hear about your practice. Michael, thank you for having us on.
Once again, where can they, before you guys leave, where can they kind of like follow you? Is it are the Twitter handles on screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, thank you guys for coming on and kind of like giving our viewers a treat today and being able to provide your insights. Like we'll definitely keep in touch and make sure that we also support you guys as well. Like we love what you guys are doing and want to continue on with like the part of NFTCON as well to kind of bring together collectors, creators, and everyone to coexist and be able to just build the NFT space in a whole.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. So much fun.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.